What's up? We're back.
You wanted
Um,
more.
yeah, and they wanted more. No, I'm just kidding.
There were a lot of comments on that first podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Some people called too and were like, "That was awesome, man," and thanks and blah blah blah. And I was like, "Yeah, it was cool." I was like, "My baby bro has been trying to get me to do it, and I'm glad I did because I think it was actually fun for me." I sometimes think I'm like doing it for everybody else. That's why like I'll do a commercial or Instagram or Facebook, but sometimes I think it's actually like for me too. Like I enjoyed it. It was a good
Yeah,
time.
it's a good space to sort of just let it all out,
Let it
freestyle.
roll. See what happens. See what I say and regret and have to apologize for.
Yeah. One of the top comments was somebody wanted to know about the bog turtles.
Ah, yes.
Is that off limits? Or are we able to talk about it?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's on limits, but it's uh I guess we could talk about it now. Enough time's passed. As long as JP's not listening. Love you, bro. Jobs have all sorts of um potential tough aspects to them. And I think that you just don't know what you're going to get until you kind of get into it. And you can have all the experience in the world and roll in. I mean, even the government runs into snafus with environmental things and stuff like that. And they're like the ultimate top government agency, you know? And so I think it's just inevitable and it doesn't happen on every job. It definitely when it does, it's kind of a shocker, and I think it's kind of the way you deal with it. And you know, you can panic and freak out and talk about it with everybody you know, and put it on Facebook and wait to see what other people say, getting into more arguments, or you can just like take it all in and like pull your pants up and like go for glory and try and figure it out. And I think for me, like one of the things I've learned over the years is like before I react to a situation, which I react to them all the time and then take it back. You know, I'll be like, "Ah," and freak out and have a mental breakdown and call a rye. And my old partner was really good for this because I would call and complain and go on and on. He wouldn't say anything. And I'd be like, bro, what, dude? Like, don't you got anything to say? And he's like, you're fine. You know what to do. And he'd hang up. And I'd be like, oh, and then it was weird because I could get mad at it, but a lot of times it'd be like, no, he's actually right. And and so when these things come up like bog turtles, which was one of the most it was probably one of the largest situations I had to deal with in work where you're like, let's go, and then nope, sorry, pump the brakes. There was a lot of things that happened due to that. And I'll get into that, but you know, you it's what you do with it. It's, you know, get upset, which is a normal reaction, but then slow your roll and process like what is getting more upset going to do for me? Is it going to make me post something stupid on Facebook and get into a fight with people like verbally, even potentially physically because I see it happen and I'm like, what is wrong with people? You know, road rage and God knows what else, arguing at the coffee shop and put me in jail and then I lose my company and my family and all that, or should I, and that's like the most extreme end of it, get deported. I mean, who knows, like all this stuff. So, you know, I think the other end of it is you can allow yourself to get mad. Try not to show your ass, or at least don't show it to people you don't have a trusting relationship with. And then like chill and like process like, okay, that was tough. What am I gonna do now? And and I think that's how we got through that situation. We were working on a very large job site with very critical deadlines because it's a an event space that hosts thousands of people and bands and all this stuff. You know, you're booking bands years in advance. And by now 99% of the people know I'm talking about Floyd Fest. so I'll just say it. And
We can bleep it out if you want.
yeah, I might have to bleep this whole part out. So we could just start by saying bog turtle and then bleep, and then 20 minutes later come back to the podcast.
And me going,
Yeah, so I think what happened is we pulled together as a team. I mean, honestly, like John McBroom, JP O'Connor, Jessica Taylor, Sam Calhoun just like rallied, you know, and we put our heads together. And there's a wealth of knowledge there, a wealth of relationships and connections. And people can hear that word connection and like, how are you using that? Is it a mafia thing, or like, are you greasing the wheels behind the scenes? It's more about like not burning bridges along the way, because like there's lots of people that piss me off that I'm like, I don't like that person. And the truth is I may have to do business with that person one day, and or go to a cheerleading competition because their daughter cheerleads with mine. And the last thing I want to do is like feel awkward because like we had a weird situation around a bog turtle, you know? So like I, I think that's one of the most beautiful things about that situation was all five of us, and Deb Tome is also like one of the critical players in that whole situation. There's a lot. I'm gonna stop naming people there because I'm gonna get in trouble. And this is my amend right now to everybody that was involved that I didn't talk about. But truthfully, we pulled together all of our connections and called people and said, hey, glad I didn't burn this bridge because I need a favor. Like, who do you recommend to deal with this? How would you deal with this? What do you do when you have to deal with this? And there's so many avenues. There's the event side of it. There's the legal side of it. There's the publicity side of it. There's construction management side of it, and telling all these people that you had hold space for this job that we can't do this job right now. I mean, it was brutal. John, who's laying out a lot to make this life project happen, who's like, hurry up and wait, you know, you got to pump the brakes and let's hope everybody makes it through this, with John having the most to lose. I mean, we all had something to lose, but he laid out a lot, and it was all ultimately, man, it was so stressful. But we kept our cool. We didn't drink. We didn't go on a bender. We didn't like go and fight somebody behind Express Mart. We 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 like got to it, and um did everything to the fullest extent of the loss, with JP and his team kind of leading the charge on that. He was very important because he's the one that really makes sure that we're doing everything right. He's double checking everything, all standards and everything. And not to say that we were going to push the rules, but when you're making sometimes 100 decisions in a day, you might lose track of what the heck decision you just made, and how it might affect the rules or what the next decision is or what's ethically right. And I'll talking all the way down to like telling everyone on site when you enter the protocol, if you were to see a turtle or even heard a turtle or even hallucinated a turtle might be in front of you. It was a lot. I mean, we had to train hundreds of people that stepped foot on site. No turtles were ever found, and we did extensive studies and research. With the government, with third party agencies out of Richmond. I mean, it was full DEF CON. I mean, I felt like I was in a war, and I probably like shaved time off my life stress wise dealing with it, but it was also exciting at the same time. And I know it sounds weird because a lot of people lost a lot and hurt a lot through it because, they had to cancel an event. So you've got bands that didn't get to play and didn't get paid. You have patrons that had planned taking time off of work to go to this that I couldn't go, that probably lost money. I think they made it right as far as tickets and stuff go and things they sold. I don't think they didn't pay anybody. I think they did everything as ethically as humanly possible in those situations. But in it, I think what it did was it taught me the importance of pulling together a team, letting my I know I'm gonna say this word wrong, but I can't even say it right. I've tried for a long time. Pulling all of our ideas together and just allowing other people's ideas to kind of come into my mind and put everything out there and not push my own agenda. And I think that's the cool thing about a team. I think there were probably a couple leaders of that team and we all kind of had to work together and we each took turns kind of being like the general. And I think there's time when you are the general where your judgment could potentially become clouded because you have so much power and sway because you got to that position because people appreciate what you say and the decisions that you make. um and they've chose you to be in that situation, that you have to control that and you have to be able to step outside of yourself and still be willing to learn and work as a team, but kind of corral everybody at the same time. And so, we had to do extensive studies, research, put lots of provisions in case, because there's a difference. There's sites where there are bog turtles present, and that's pretty extreme because they are going extinct. Um, and it's due to development and things like that because we're taking habitat and the things like that. I mean, they live in swampy areas, especially where there's cattle, because cattle push their feet into the ground and they make a hole and the bog turtles go down in there and they live. And it's kind of one of those creations that's doesn't totally make sense, but they've lived for a very long time. They're a turtle that can't suck their head in. So they can't run away. They can't swim away because they live in the mud and they can't even suck their head in. So the beat on the street is that the predators go after them and that's why they live in the mud. Skunks, raccoons chew their heads off. It's pretty brutal. Sorry to say that publicly because somebody might not want to hear about a turtle getting their head chewed off, but I learned a lot about them. Um, and so, I think the biggest thing was what I learned from it is I think the initial, like, there's no turtles here, to you still have to prepare in case there is. That was a hard pill for me to swallow because I'm like, dude, we've been through the ringer on this. Like, we're tired, we're worn out, we just want to have a music event. We don't want to spend any more money on these provisions that you're saying we need. There's nothing here. And then, that's that point where you go, okay, let me listen to the professional who's gone to college and probably has a PhD and all sorts of things that I don't really understand. And that's okay because I understand the things I need to are telling me that this is a thing. And so I stopped, listened, and learned and was like, yeah, it actually is important. Like, what the heck? If a bog turtle washes down the creek and needs to find a hole, let's make it available for him. And so little things like bridges and stuff like that, and then not blocking waterways so that they can move freely, leaving wetlands in place, stuff like that, working with all sorts of wetland professionals and Army Corps and things like that, DEQ, DWR, all the way up the food chain. I mean, it almost went presidential thanks to Sam Calhoun. I mean, he probably like could have took it there. He's a very he might be the most interesting man in the world. Nah, he's one of those guys that you meet and you're like, that dude's freaking crazy. And then you get to know him and you're like, he's actually the freaking man. He knows a lot. He's very smart. He's um he's well received and all different areas that I would have never expected. And he's been hugely helpful to me in my life with all sorts of things, you know.
Give it up for how much we love each other, guys.
So hats off to him. You know, and Jessica dealing with just an incredible amount of stuff behind the scenes that people don't ever see. You know, and Sam was right there with her, but she shared the lion's share of like dealing with bands that are supposed to play a show that aren't. And you know, it's not just about the money. The bands also have to choose to play there, you know, and they do get paid, but it is still their choice, and so they're excited about it. So it's a letdown. And I think in the industry that's looked at as like they failed, like we couldn't play there again, you know. And I think Jessica circumnavigated all that, you know, and did a tremendous job. And you know, and JP, you know, he was kind of like our leader at that point, you know, because we just had to keep checking in with him to make sure that we were all in line and doing things and crossing our T's and dotting our I's, you know. And John's just like, welcome to the bad dream, man. That's a kind of a joke, you know. I love John. He's become one of my good friends, and there's not a lot I wouldn't do for that man. He's he got up on the first festival we had and got on the stage and said, "Welcome to the dream." And it was like this iconic.
Yeah, made it into the highlight reel.
Oh yeah, dude, it's in my. I think I say that every morning on the ride to work just to get pumped for the day.
Welcome to the dream. And man, it's been a dream.
You know, so as far as it goes, yeah, I know who asked that, so I know why she asked that. I'll privately message her later, probably.
Sorry for bringing it up.
No, you know, but it was kind of funny because the one thing about bog turtles that's a little bit hilarious is like you're not supposed to talk about bog turtles because they're endangered. And so where they are is supposed to stay kind of like not really talked about because some weird people might want to go like find one, you know. Luckily there are none there. So there is nothing to look for. But because it made it's not national news, but it definitely was on a state level news. So with that being said, the not talking about it was talked about. But when people came to the festival when it started, they had like hundreds and thousands of little turtles that they sprinkled all over the ground. And they weren't looking like bog turtles. They were like neon and different colors, but I think it was like um it was a little upsetting at first, and then I started laughing and I was like, wow, okay. People really like pay attention to that. This thing is so important to people to be a part of that they pay attention to all the nitty-gritty of what was going on. And I realized at that moment, like, they thought about it so much that they went on Amazon and bought a bag of little baby turtles and sprinkled them around the site for free. So I was like, that's some commitment to this thing. And so I think, you know, it was a moment for me to be like, this is a pretty important event to be a part of. And, you know, I think for me, it was probably one of like my biggest learning curves in my company of just dealing with um stuff as it comes and not even knowing about it. I mean, we try to go into things being completely prepared, but it's just you can't ever be completely prepared. The best part about being prepared is being able to calm yourself down and think through what's going on, you know. You can have all the tools in the world, but I think how you mentally respond to something is probably by far the greatest tool, you know. So I hope that answers
I think it does.
Blank's question about bog turtles.
Were there
um
any other comments or phone calls that you got about the first podcast that
Yeah, somebody wanna know about the dump truck I bought by accident. It's not here because it's too icy to get. We're in, like, a ice apocalypse. I don't think it's that bad, but and I'll probably get some slack for saying that because there's a lot of people that think it's real bad, and it might be where they're at, so I apologize in advance. But it's bad enough where they don't want me to pick up the dump truck because it could be hairy, I guess, situation. But it's one of those things about relationships and moving too fast and not paying attention to what you're actually doing when you're doing it. And I'm famous for that because my phone goes nonstop. And I mean, when I say nonstop, it's definitely going off right now. I just have it on mute and do not disturb and a EMP proof bag, and it's untraceable at the moment. It's the only way I could do this and not be distracted. Um, but I'll be in meetings in my office and getting texts and responding and listening and emailing and doing an estimate at the same time. And I learned here recently that that's probably not the best thing to do.
Yeah, because how do you accidentally buy a dump truck?
Yeah, well, I'm about to explain. One time when I was texting, emailing, writing a contract, signing a contract, holding a company meeting, delegating my staff, trying to eat lunch, and texting at the same time, I accidentally bought a dump truck. So there's people that come into our life that, and it's about the burning bridges thing. It kind of relates back to that a little bit, where you're like, there's something about that person, whether it's weird, bad, good, awesome, attractive, whatever. And you're like, um, I think like I should like get to know this person or I should keep a safe distance. I shouldn't talk too much crap because it comes back around all the time. Um, but this person was one of the people in my life that I thought was pretty interesting. They're very smart, very talented. I think very successful, and success is measured in all different ways. I think he's successful by the relationship he has with his kids and the little life he's built self-sufficient out here in the country. I don't think he has millions of dollars, and some people rate success on money. For me, it's more about happiness and family. But I looked up to this person a lot, and over the years, he'd message me a little bit, and I be super excited when he messaged me because I was like, "Oh, I think he likes me too. That's cool. I'm accepted by a cool person." And and so he had a health scare, and I just was very respectful because our relationship wasn't the type where I can like go over there and bring him soup or whatever the heck he might want. It was more like I'm just gonna be prepared if they need anything and ask. I don't know if they will, but if they do, I'll be prepared. You know, I didn't want to just barge in because, when people are in those situations, they may let you in even if they don't want to because they feel awkward. And so I'd rather be invited into those spaces than kind of push my way in. And that's just my own opinion. I think it's probably wrong some of the time. Like sometimes you need to push in a little, but I kinda gave him his space, and then after all the health stuff went away, which was a while, he sent me a very nice text for Christmas saying how much my relationship meant to him and things, and I took that like, that was the first time we ever had that exchange, and I was like, "That was pretty freaking cool." And I was like, I 'cause, I just didn't know, like, what he thought about me or our relationship. We never really talked about it. We had a more of a business relationship. And then, like, 2 months later, he's like, "I'm thinking about selling my dump truck," which was it's not your average dump truck. It's not like, "Get in, put rocks in it, and dump it." It's like, wax it and put it in the garage and, like, vacuum the seat. It's pretty sweet. He's redone it. I cannot wait to drive it around and, like, wave to people when I'm driving with all the lights and stuff flashing. So I told my cousin he works in law enforcement, and I think a lot of him, and he's a great guy. I said, man, if you ever get in a situation and need a dump truck in law enforcement, it's got lights on top. He's like, we probably won't, but I'll keep it in mind. I was like, I can drive it and turn the lights on. He's like, don't do that because that, we do that. You don't. And so, but anyway, he texted me and he's like, I think I'm going to sell my dump truck. And I was like, oh my God. And in my mind, I'm like, he didn't offer it to me, which I assumed it was coming next, but I was like, I don't think I can swing this dump truck, but it'd be the coolest thing ever. And I was like, well, what would you want for it? And he said, well, I want X. Then that's a cliffhanger. So if you know me, you could try and ask, and I might tell you. But he told me, and I was like, oh, okay, I got to think about it. He said, yeah, take as much time as you need. And I said, yeah. I said, yeah, I just need a week or so to think about it. And then I said, I'd really love to have that dump truck. Being like, I would really love to, but the sentence before was, I need time to think about it. And I was going to buy it, but I hadn't made the decision yet. And 3 days later, the title was in my mailbox with an invoice. And who sold me the dump truck? I'm not saying the names. I freaking love you, dude. So, like, no stress. Like, I've never done a podcast and haven't talked about people publicly before, but this is all in love. And I'm like, and my bookkeeper, who I love a lot, Jody, she's like, you bought a dump truck? I was like, I don't know how to respond to that because that was the first time I knew I got this title and stuff. And with Jody, this is gonna segue into a lot, but she's one of the most trusted people I have in my life. She's like at a mother level for me here, and she's been with me and guided me for a while. And so when she says, "You bought a dump truck," I take it as if my mom's like, "You're grounded. You did something." So all those old feelings come back of like, "I messed up. Oh God." And then I'm like, yeah, I guess. Like, let me look at that. And, she could probably care less because she's like just paying bills. And I just have to make sure there's enough money to pay the bills, which I try as hard as I can, and I've kept her happy most of the time, in that front. But yeah, I paid for the dump truck, and I own this dump truck, which I talked about in the podcast last time at the end, and Rye listened to it and right away and say, "Listen to your podcast." And my next response was, "I'll explain the dump truck later when I get home." So I hadn't told really anybody yet. The truth is we have a lot of stuff going on. We need a dump truck always. And we're not hauling gravel and dirt and all those types of things. We're more moving materials and stuff like that for ourselves. For me, I think the biggest thing that it brought up was you shouldn't text like when you're doing 25 things. And sometimes it might even just need a phone call because what the hell, man? I just like spent a shit ton of money like in a 1 second text that had misspelled words in it. And I could have gotten out of it. But for me, I think I've learned more through those experiences in my life than any other experience or education, I'd say, I've paid for or been able to kind of experience. I think when I go through those moments of like, it makes me think deeply and about why that happened. And you know, I said last time I go to counseling, and that's what my counselor always says, like, what does that remind you of? How old are you when that happened? I'm like, I'm 43, man. I'm not six, dude. Like, maybe it's a 6-year-old emotion, but like, I want to talk about that grab, and I'm not crying in here. Like, I don't cry no more. And she's like, why would you say that? You know, but I can get into counseling. It's actually been like one of the greatest things I have in my life. And my relationship with my counselor, I will say, has changed a lot. And I know this isn't exactly the way I'm gonna say it. It's like we become friends. And we're not friends. We don't only we meet when we meet and that's it, you know, and it's strictly professional, but it's different when I go in there. She's not like trying to drill me to be like, when you were 4, you stubbed your toe and it's a post traumatic stress that like every time you see somebody stub your toe, you cry and have to drink beer. You know, it's like, let's just talk about the week and what's up, you know? And it's more of like me unloading in a safe place of being like, my buddy keeps sending me these joking memes on Instagram, and it's kind of getting under my skin, but I'm gonna act tough and not feed into it. And she's like, it's okay. And I'm like, glad somebody can listen to me and not judge me, but she's probably judging me. She's just paid to not show it. Nah, she's great. And counseling's been great. And, you know, but she's always challenged me to look deeper into what's up. And so for that, I can look at it as, man, I screwed up, man. I spent all this money and I don't even know what. And I got to go get a super high interest credit card and not think straight and like go home and not talk to my wife for 3 days because I don't want to take the chance of telling her what happened. Or instead, I'm like, okay, well, obviously I was doing too much crap and I responded in a way that needed a little more thought. And really what's going on is I got too much that I'm in charge of doing or too much responsibility. And then I pretty much immediately call Courtney and I'm like, I got too much responsibility. Help. And she's like, okay. You know, she's really good at that. And honestly, it's more like talking it out, I think, in that process of like talking it out where the magic kind of happens of like, oh, cool, we know what to do. Like, we just need to use our time wisely, you know. I tell people all the time that have a hard time with management is like set your schedule for the day. It doesn't have to be locked in, but for 1 hour you'll read emails and for 2 hours you'll respond to the things in those emails that are important and then you have lunch. And then, you know, for 1 hour you make phone and just little things to help say like, okay, I got to stop like wasting so much time on this email and come back to it tomorrow. And now I need to make some phone calls so that other people don't get left, you know. And I realize what I mean by getting left is if you spend all day on that email and don't make the phone call, then you're pissing off two people, you know, and instead of just one, you know, and managing all that is complicated. And I think time management's what's critically important. Um, and that's what I fall into all the time. I need a list. I need to be able to cross things off, and then I get excited about shrinking the list and things. But most of the time for me, when I'm managing, it's most of the stuff I need to be doing my damn self. But what kind of boss wants to admit that, dude? It's hard, you know, in those talks to be like, actually, I should be doing this myself, you know, because I'm supposed to be a leader, you know. But I think the more you kind of get aware of what it is you want out of life, the more it doesn't really matter to be cool or tough or the boss. It's more about like, let's all just get better, you know. So, you know, I brought up um Jody a minute ago, who's one of you know, there's like my insurance agent, I don't know how many years ago, was like, "Do you want to insure any key employees?" And I was like, "I don't even know what that means." And he's like, "Well, you insure somebody that's really important because if they die, then we'll give you $100,000." I was like, "I'm not paying uh for somebody in case they die." Like, it just feels weird to me. And some people understand that philosophy completely, and that's great. I just think it's a weird concept. I really do. And I'm sorry for all my friends that are insurance agents, but I don't really want to like pay money every month because my friend might die, so I get 100 grand. You know, it's called key employee insurance, and I could be saying it wrong, but that's how I heard it. And but what it challenged me to do, so this is not an insurance talk. This is a personnel friend talk. It forced me to think about who are the most important people that I work with. Um, and that was an interesting process for me because throughout the years of my business, I've created a lot of relationships. I've worked super close with so many people. I've learned the difference between business and deep friendship, and when you kind of have to take the friend hat off and put the business hat on. And I talked about kindness and firmness last time. It's not about being an asshole. It's about, a friend, you might be like, "Man, I'm sorry that happened," and whatever. And a boss might be like, "That sucked that happened. Like, we need to figure it out." But, the older I grow or age or whatever it is, I realize that the most important friends in my life are the ones that do say, "That kind of sucked that you did that. Like, how can we change that next time?" I realize that my very close friends are also the ones that are like, "You're on the border of being obese," or like, "You lied the other day about blah blah blah," which sucks to hear, but it's the truth. And I don't want my friends to sugarcoat too much. I mean, they can sugarcoat all they want when we like go to Vegas or like go on vacation and have fun because we're all having fun, dude. So we could whatever. We're not doing anything terrible, but but in a normal day-to-day relationship with a friend, I want them to say, so blah 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 hurt me or did this so that I can like learn how to be a better friend or learn what I did wrong. But thinking about key employees, it's thinking about the people that are critical to the company, that and I've been down this road over the past 5 years intensely. There has been a few people, well, it's kind of hilarious. Um the 5 6 people that I've been there's like 10 people that I'm like, they're key people. Like, I can't, if I lose them, it's over. And out of those 10 people, I think 6 of them have left. And out of those people that have left, some have come back and our relationship's gotten better. And we both had something to learn um, about each other and how we work together and what we actually need out of the job. And I only think they came back because they knew that I was trying to get better. They knew that they could talk to me openly and that I actually cared and gave a damn, you know. And it's actually been one of the most like beautiful things when they come back. It's like we've learned and grown so much and learned what we all need out of it that it's even better. But I remember when I thought I could never do this business without my partner, and the world works in really crazy ways because, you know, he came to me and said, um, "I'm moving to New Mexico." And I'm like, "How you gonna move to New Mexico? We're partners in Omnibuild." He goes, "Well, I don't want to stop being your partner. I'm going to open up Omnibuild in New Mexico, Omni West." You know, and I said, "Well, good, because I don't want," and I realized how crazy that was to a degree, that he was going to move to New Mexico and we would stay partners. And I needed that safety feeling for myself, of like, I need to be able to call him. I need to be able to whine on the phone for an hour and him to say, "You're fine, grow up," or whatever. That's not even a big deal. I mean, he would never be like, "Oh man, I'm sorry that happened." He was like, "You got this. You're tough." Like, he says these things that are so just direct and like it's not even necessarily true, like I probably don't got it in the moment, but I'll figure out how to get it, and I think that's the kind of how his comment resonated with me and how I was able to actually find the power to pull it together. But with all that being said, key employees, um, one of my closest employees was a really big deal. Jody said, I'm getting to a place in my life where I need to make a shift. The company's gotten bigger, it's changing. It's not the greatest thing. And she was able to be very honest. And it shattered me in that moment. And if I still cried, I lost my tear ducts, I don't cry anymore. I would cry a lot right now, probably. Um, but she's not only been there for me as my bookkeeper and payroll and all that stuff, she's built relationships with our subs, relationships with my family, relationships with her family I've built. She's guided me through things I have no freaking understanding of, and I still don't. I tell people I don't even know my finances. I don't even know how to check my bank account. Like, I trust her to that extent that she manages it and just says, "You need to go get some more money." And I'd be like, "Okay." And I would go, you know? And that relationship cultivated into something really beautiful. And um it's too much for her. And my greedy initial reaction is, "You can't do that to me." And I didn't say that out loud, but that's what I felt like in my mind. And that's what goes back to not saying the first thing that comes to mind and pulling it back in and thinking it through before you say it. Because one, it's probably not even the right reaction. Two, it's going to hurt them. And three, it's gonna like make me have to fucking make an amends one day or something, for something I didn't even really mean. So it's just a lot better to like not say it, think it through, find the right way to say it, or even if you need to say it. But my next feeling an hour later was like, holy shit, man, Jody's awesome. She stood up for herself. She knows what she needs. She's given it her all. She's trained all these people. She's helped me build something that is so special for all these people that work here. And she's taking control of her life. She's in a position where she's going to pretty much be retired. She's probably still got other things she's going to do that are small and low key that she's been doing for a long time. But I got so much love and respect for that. It's actually made me feel stronger about her as a person of asking for what she needs in the way that she did and the help I know she'll give on her exit that I'm like, congrats. I don't want it to feel like I'm glad you're leaving thing at all because it's not that. I'm glad that you're making a decision and I've made a space good enough to where you feel supported enough where you can tell me this intense thing that you've probably had a hard time thinking about how you were going to tell me. That I've allowed the space for that conversation to happen. And, because I think you can be in a bad situation and feel like, I just don't know what to do and I don't want to hurt somebody, and then just like quit or not show up again. And then you have this weird thing that you just kind of have to, and I'm not saying Jody even considered that. I'm just saying in life, building the space where people feel comfortable enough to tell you, like, I got to do this for me, and you're comfortable enough to say, wow, great, shit, but great. It's tough for me in those situations because I immediately go to, what am I gonna do next? And how am I gonna make this work? And I start freaking out, and and then I gotta like calm down. I gotta like put a song on the radio or call somebody that I can joke with, and not tell them what the hell's going on. Just joke, so I can like disengage from that mindset, joke around, get back down to zero, and think through it in a way that's thoughtful, and I'm not going to hurt anybody. And sometimes there are small casualties, but it's how you deal with them. And what I mean by that is like you're going to be hiring somebody. You might be hiring somebody from somewhere that people or something like that, and that could be hurtful at times. And it's how you kind of deal with it, you know. And the space that you leave open to kind of talk about it, you know. But that happened this week, and it's not like public, but it will be when this comes out,
Mm,
you know.
well,
Um, yeah. So I don't know. I think like you just never know what your week's gonna entail sometimes.
yeah, that's definitely a curveball.
It's the old saying of like, when you have too many expectations, expect to be fucking hurt,
Mm,
or let down, or quite the opposite, excited and like gracious and grateful and all the other good stuff too.
yeah, because I mean, like the last thing you want when you lose an employee that is a key employee like that
Mm-hmm.
is for it to be a burnt bridge and the relationship to be,
Hell no. Yeah.
gone south because of the exit not going graciously. So
Yeah.
it's really good that you're able to facilitate an exit like that for someone who is a key player and part of the Omni family for so many years and helped you build it to where it's at in a lot of ways.
Yeah, man. Like, what kind of example does that set for your other employees? If you're like, this person is not our friend no more, and they're not family, and we're not ever helping them again. It's a bad example. There are situations where somebody quits or you fire somebody that sucks, that you should be upset about. Um, but you still can't show your ass completely. And you still have to show the people that you're working with that it's a safe place. And we do um um support good decisions for people's lives. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, I want to see people thrive. I had a 18-year-old girl come in, very quiet, soft spoken, and my initial reaction was like, there's no way that this person is going to be able to work here. And I'm thinking about myself and where I'm at right in that moment. And I'm like, I'm stressed out. I'm working 18 hours a day. I'm this, I'm that. I'm shoveling snow. And how are they going to do all this? But that's not what they're going to do. They're going to start exactly how I started and learn and work their way up the totem pole. And they might be better than me one day. And I looked at this 18-year-old girl and did an interview and was like, my initial thought was, I just can't do it in my mind. And after she got done talking, the first thing out of my mouth was, I'm so freaking proud of you for coming in here and asking for a job on the electrical crew. Like, I want to hire you just because of that. Like that took a lot of courage to walk into a big construction company and say I want to work on your electrical crew, and they've done research and understand what it takes to become a licensed electrician. I mean, I was pretty stoked on that. Red Rooster coffee, bro. It's good.
It's the best.
I was impressed at that interview. And again, it's like funny how the podcast keeps going back to like, slow down and think about what you're about to say. Cause that's exactly what that was like. My initial thought, which I would never say out loud. I might have at one point in my life when I was crazy, but I didn't have any boundaries or respect, I guess. I was like, okay, I didn't say that. I kinda even feel bad for thinking it, you know? But, we gotta wait for a position to open, and she's on the list, man. Like, I look at that as, like, I wanna see that in our kids, man. I wanna see the kids. I don't know if it's they're nervous or they think trades suck or they're never gonna make it, or I don't even know what they think. I want to go into the school system. I brought this up in town meetings, and I brought it up to people that are on the education board and stuff like that. I would love to go sit down with kids and ask them, like, what do you really think about the trades? Like, you know, 60%, 70 might already have aspirations to go to college, become a nurse or a doctor or a writer or business or finance or insurance, you know, selling key employee insurance packages to all the companies around. But to me, you just never know. And I think there's somewhat of a misconception of what the trades can be. And, I know women, for the most part, think it's not necessarily always a great option. And I only know that from the past from doing interviews where
Uh-huh.
they come because they're like, "Is it a safe place to work as a woman?" And I'm
Huh.
like, "It should be. If it ain't, I'm gonna make it a safe place." We have plenty of women that work here now. So for me, I think it's great to make a place where an 18-year-old girl can come in and ask to join the electrical crew. I mean, I thought that was cool. Um, and I wanna talk to kids in the schools.
Yeah, what would you say to kids that are skeptical, thinking about their options going into
Yeah.
young adulthood as career choices? What's your like little elevator pitch or your podium speech you would give to them to maybe turn their heads a little bit towards the trades?
Yeah, I do think about it, and I think about what is gonna catch them, because I do think it's about catching them, and their attention is what I mean, not, like, physically catching them, but, the, um I think the path to their heart is money. 'Cause they want a new iPhone, they want the new shoes, or I don't even know what kids are into and they save their money for now, nails or iPod game or iBox, I
I don't think
mean,
anybody knows.
Nintendo Switch games, iBox.
The iBox is the next thing, I think.
Dude, let's patent that, let's coin that term or whatever they call it, but I think for me, I'd probably go in and say, "Do you know that you can make X amount of money in this amount of time?" And I think that's a pretty good cliffhanger for them to be like, "Wow, like how?" You know? Um, because you hear of a lot of kids that get into labor positions that may not ever get out because they don't know that they can move up, or it's just naturally kind of happens. But I think you need to bait the hook with these kids and say, "Here's the path to getting to this salary in 4 years," and you can do it. And so instead of getting a college education, which I'm not saying is wrong, I think that college educations are completely appropriate for everybody that needs it for what they're going into. I'm just talking about the trades right now. But I think that showing those kids, you don't have to go to college and go into debt. You can start working and making money in 4 years. I'll pay for you to go to school for a trade license. And in 4 years, you can get a license. And you could be making this amount of money, and you can be leading a crew, and you can be doing this. I mean, I I think, with the exception of one, every single person in Omnibuild has been trained to become a foreman or leader. I don't think anyone stepped in the door as a whatever they were before and took that position. I think that we've trained farmers and all different types of backgrounds, office jobs, restaurant jobs, and train them into foreman. And I think it's a cool process.
This is not necessarily the background that matters. Is it more of a mentality
Yeah.
or characteristics that these people can have?
Yeah, it's pretty cool because we interviewed a couple people this week. and one of my foreman slash supervisors was there, and it was we keep talking, or I keep talking about saying that they need to be there, and he happened to be there, so it worked out good. Because I do think it's important, because if I hire somebody that they're working with, it's probably a good idea to have them there, make sure it works. But he said that. He said, we'd rather hire somebody that wants to learn, has a good work ethic, and a good work ethic could be like getting 16 papers done as opposed to three. It doesn't mean that you're going to shovel crap for uh, 15 minutes faster than everybody else. It's good work ethic is it starts meant in your mind. But I think that he said we'd rather work with somebody with a good attitude that wants to learn, and ethic, than somebody that knows everything about carpentry or electrical or plumbing, you know. And that's what I say all the time. And it was kind of cool to hear it coming from somebody else. And I'm not saying I came up with that philosophy. I mean, we did as a team and a family. But it was really cool to hear it, because I think that's how we really feel. We would rather hire younger, older, whatever, people that really have a desire to want to learn and do this, than somebody that comes in and is like, I've been doing this for 30 years and I'll run circles around everyone in your company. I'm like, you're probably not the right fit. Sorry. Like, we don't work like that. Um and it happens, and I've tried it over the years. I've tried on we took some huge jobs on, and I took like the ultimate experienced person, and uh just didn't work at all.
Mm.
Like, even close to working, and I damaged the relationship, and it sucked, and I should have let that go, and I should have known from the beginning. And I think I do know when I'm hiring somebody, and whether it's to work for Omnibuild on payroll or a sub, I think my gut knows that nowadays that that's probably not gonna work. And I got to go with that intuition, I think, a little more than I do at times. So I don't know. I think it's been a bit of a wild week. I think interviewing new people, losing a key employee, um, picking up a potential huge job, going through the list of jobs and seeing how much we need another project manager, and how are we actually going to do this year. But the truth of the matter is like, people say, how big do you want to get? And I'm like, I don't freaking know. We're just going to keep doing what we can. Um, and every year since the beginning, I say, I don't know how we're going to do all this year. And we do it every year. And I had to start holding some weight with that, of like, because I will stress out. Like, January, February is brutal, man. We're coming out of winter. We just took 2 weeks off. We paid everybody in the company for 2 weeks off. And when you pay 50 people to take 2 weeks off, it's a lot of money. And when you pay for a Christmas party and a huge raffle and Christmas bonuses, it's a lot of money. And so we take all the money we made all year and do that. And then January and February are like, like, insane for me, because I'm reeling about how can I get the coffers back up. And then probably by March, April, I forgot about January and February, and I'm in the trenches, and I'm just working and figuring it out. Um, so, I think it's going to be a really good year. I think we're going to see some new faces. I think we're going to build some new relationships. Um, I've got, um, I've got a very close friend that I work with a lot, that we're engaging in a more work related relationship that I'm super excited about. You know, I look up to this person and what he's done and how he runs his business. And for him to say, I want to work with you on some of these jobs, that's like an honor. That's like, wow, I might quickly look at that as like, that's a great business opportunity. But to me, I'm more like, damn, I must be doing something right if he wants to work with me, and it's a cool thing,
Yeah.
and we're kind of uniting the forces, and we're not like changing businesses or doing anything. We're just gonna do some work together. And I'm pretty excited about that, And, I think it goes back to don't burn bridges. Even if you get upset, it's better to think it through and think how you're going to react and what you might say and how that might make that person feel and what you really should say. You know, my counselor used to say all the time, it's an inside job. And I think it truly is at the end of the day. It's all the stuff seems external, but it's always just going on inside me. And what I put out comes from the inside, and I need to address it there first. So,
Or on the podcast.
or on the podcast. Yeah, that's true. I work it out on here a little bit. The more I do, if you like the podcast, I can do some more. So give me a thumbs up.
You got 2 from me.
Dang, well, that's not enough, but I'm just kidding.
Come on, guys.
I'm
like
not
the
doing it
video.
for thumbs ups. I'm doing it because I enjoy it and I like hanging out with Dan. He just had a baby.
It's true.
And well, he didn't have it. He was a big part of it having. But I know what it's like to be a new dad and all the responsibilities. And we see Dan a lot, but this is kind of a cool moment for us to get to hang out together. So I appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad that you're doing it, and I'm excited to be involved in whatever capacity, whether it's just running cameras or sitting in this chair or helping you get other people to sit down and talk to. I'm open to it all.
Sweet. Well,
Do you got any cliffhangers this week?
the cliffhanger is if you like it, come back. I'm going to talk about something real good next week.
Oh, I can feel it. Sweet.
Come back.
See you then.